expect the Spanish Inquisition. It's head-first only television.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Mic check. Very boomy in here because I've got that wound up. And rather than turning the microphone down, which I do every week, and then have to ramp the audio back up in my audio editing software, why don't I just turn the speakers down? It makes more sense. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's been one of those days. Everybody's sort of a bit under the weather. Sorry to hear Riako's not very well. I've really been getting short stabby pains with the kidney stone this week, and as a result I can't remember the last day I had a decent night's sleep. And of course it's form, and form means that sleep just, it's something that occasionally happens when you've run out of ideas for making songs, and I have been making many songs. According to plan, that should be the last time you see that particular set of opening credits. And I was just watching it now, and dear goodness me, the tremor that and it's still there actually in my left hand, which I've had for about 15 years, is really noticeable on camera. Except that that's the first week, and this is 38 weeks I've been doing this show. That should be the last time I show you those opening credits, because, as I said on Sunday, I have done a new theme tune for the Head First Only Livestream Twitch channel, and I thought I'd kick off proceedings today by sharing it with you. So you've probably heard it if you've been following me on February Album Writing Month, but this is called Mission Statement. Verse or chorus, and I'll tell you which is which. And then I'll tell you that this form is called an octastitch. I'm pants at reading music, and I don't have perfect pitch. But when it comes to writing songs, I've got to scratch that itch. HFO goes live on air, we all expect a glitch. 'Cause every show I do, I know that I will find a hitch. I'm not expecting what I do to ever make me rich. I'm having fun with making music here right now with you on Twitch. There's always a glitch, so I thought I'd commemorate it in song. And it's funny, I hadn't consciously made a decision to do the sort of 1980s reggae, but 3 people have told me already, oh, sounds like the Bergerac theme tune. And Bergerac, if you're not familiar with it, was a 1980s BBC detective drama set in the Channel Islands, and the titular hero was John Bergerac, played by John Nettles. And basically the theme tune for Bergerac was the police walking on the moon with an accordion and occasional trumpets. The French Doggy says Bergerac is a city near my place, around 50 kilometres away. Well, there you go. I too was impressed with all those is-itch rhymes, and a few people on form were too. Yeah, and that didn't sort of happen intentionally. It's just I sort of did 4 lines, and then I thought, when I consulted, oh gosh, that's bright, isn't it? Walker's Rhyming Dictionary of the English Language. I have finally figured out how it works. It's backwards. So you start, when you want to look something up, with the last letter in the word. And it's like a dictionary, but a dictionary full of blank pages. It's like one of Donald Trump's executive orders, isn't it? It starts off A to Z, but A to Z is the last letter, and then within the last letter, A to Z with the second to last letter, and you get the idea. So I've actually been giving the old copy of Walker's a bit of a hammering this week, and it revealed to me that one of the rhymes for itch, because I didn't want to, there were some that I was just very certain I was not going to use. The obvious one is bitch, and I kind of didn't want to use ditch either. So Walker's revealed to me that there is a poetic form known as an octastitch, O-C-T-A-S-T-I-C-H. Yeah, an octastitch is basically a stanza of 8 lines. And there is also a monostitch, which really surprised Tim, our friend Oddbod, who said, I didn't realise there was a poem with 1 line. But yes, there is, and it's called a monostitch. Duh. So, shots fired, says the French Doggy. Thank you, yes. Very, very definitely going down the Bergerac route with that. And, yeah, why the hell not? And there's more piano on this than I've used. I think that Spontaneous Grand Pianos album has done something to my muse, because Array Motion says, is there a heptastitch? I would imagine there must be. I haven't looked it up, but if there's an octastitch and a heptastitch, there's probably a pentastitch and a yeah, why not? And if there wasn't, there is now, because that's what HFO television does. It creates new poetic forms on the fly and broadcasts them to the world, or at least Belgium, France and the UK, and wherever else you happen to be tuning in. Yeah, Spontaneous Grand Pianos was the album that I did last month, which I've released on Bandcamp. You can go over to headfirstonly.bandcamp.com and grab yourself a copy. It's free, pay what you want. I decided I wanted to teach myself how to use all the different native instruments, contact pianos, of which I have more than a few. And I think I've fallen in love with playing piano again. As you will see later on, that's not the only track that I've done in the last 4 days that features piano in it. 4 days into form, how many tracks have I got? 4? I think I'm overachieving a little bit this month, because I've been not so much being enthused. It's just lockdown, no job, no work. What else am I going to do? I'm going to sit in here and make music. And that's kind of what I've done since Monday, which is why there aren't any fancy schmancy opening titles with me nice Zoom Q2N 4K video camera that I haven't filmed yet, because hello to iPhone Mac Pro. Yeah, I've just really got into making music and had a great time of it. So we'll come on to some more of those tracks in a little bit. But first of all, gear. Native Instruments have released a 150 preset pack called Our House if you happen to own Massive X. And I do. So I got it. It just appeared in my native access application on Tuesday morning. And there's some really, really nice, usable sounds in it. But was kind of overshadowed by a humongous software drop on Monday, which was Absinthe version 5.3.3, because the download was 1.15 gigabytes. And there's some good stuff in that. So I will be using Absinthe in my stuff this month. That might be the instrument that I take it upon myself to learn more deeply, which, as I said, I did with spontaneous grand pianos during January, and that's really, 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 changed what I'm doing again. Where was I? I've completely lost the plot this week. I really have. And part of this we will come to shortly, because one of my friends basically is sitting form out this year, and everybody else has said, well, that's not possible, so we're just going to name you as a collaborator and just do music in your style. And we will come to the Silver Machine Challenge shortly. But software drops. So Absinthe, Massive X expansion, there was another one. I was watching, as I always do, Guy Mitchell-Moore's YouTube channel, which is Think Space Education. And I mean, one of the reasons that I have the S88 Mark II is because Guy got one in the summer and was going, this is the best MIDI keyboard ever. And he's not wrong. And on his show, which he recorded on the 29th of January, because being me, I look at the Windows 10 clock in his screen share to see when it was recorded and where there are edits. And if there are edits, and there aren't, he just flies through it and does it because he's a professional. But on his show, he talked about a couple of plugins, VSTs, Virtual Studio Technology, for those of you who ask, and I embarrassed myself on the last show because I couldn't remember what it stood for, but it's basically things that crop up in your digital audio workstation. So if we go back to this, there's loads and loads of tracks. The tracks are either audio tracks, which is me playing guitar, which is just piped in through the audio interface, or there are MIDI tracks. And MIDI tracks usually have something. There are instruments that you download, and they respond to the MIDI notes that you send from a MIDI controller. And they will play piano noises like that one. Or what else have we got on this one? I think we've also got a symphony orchestra, because why not a symphony orchestra? And not only have I got the BBC Symphony Orchestra core package in play here, and I'm sure some of you probably figured out already, I've also got the Spitfire Audio Abbey Road 1, because I am all about the medium swells. Which I think you will probably hear an awful lot in television music over the next couple of years. Medium smells, indeed. They're rather fabulous. So VST instruments, all very nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about one of the VST plugins that Guy raved about is way out of my price range, and it's called Cinematic Rooms by Liquid Sonics. And oh boy, reverbs. You know by now that HFO is all about the reverbs, right? Okay, every song on this has a reverb. It's a default on this setup. I mean, look, if I open this, look, there you go. Valhalla Supermassive. If you haven't got Valhalla's Supermassive reverb and you're doing music, then you really need to go and get it. Valhalla DSP is the company. Supermassive is their reverb. It is gloriously over the top, and I just drop it on everything. But this cinematic rooms that Guy was talking about, it's an algorithmic reverb, so it's not based on an impulse response from a physical place. That's a type of reverb called a convolution reverb, and there are some very, very good convolution reverbs. It's an algorithmic reverb, which means it does all the maths to model a physical space, and then models the bouncing around of waves of sound within that physical space. And oh boy. So there's a home version, is sort of Windows Home standard, which is like 199 quid, and then there's the professional one, which is 399. And we were talking about this on Riaco Stream yesterday in the chat, and the general verdict was it's very purple. But believe me, check out Guy's YouTube channel and check out Liquid Sonic's Cinematic Rooms reverb. So that was the spendy money, expensive-y type thing that Guy was talking about. The other thing he was talking about is a company called Orchestral Tools, which I'd not come across before. And they've got a really interesting software distribution model. They sell stuff, sure, but what they also have, and I'm going to call up my plugins right now and show it you. They also have something that's kind of like Contact Player, right? Only this one is called Sign Player, which is fair enough. But what makes Sign Player interesting is that when you install it, or when you download it, you take out a subscription to Orchestral Tools' mailing list. It doesn't cost you anything. You literally just agree to get an email from Orchestral Tools a couple of times a month, right? So long as you're subscribed to the Orchestral Tools mailing list, they will keep adding free virtual instruments to your Sign Player. So some of them are a bit mad, and we'll come on to those in a minute, but the first one I want to play you is this one, which is called Ratio, and it's a grand piano, and it's a rather nice grand piano. It takes its time loading because it's quite a few samples on it, right? But this is what it sounds like. So slap a bit of the old Valhalla Supermassive on that, and you've got something rather lovely. So I'm kind of rather taken with that, and yeah, totally free. So that's the piano. No, I didn't want to click on that. I'm still figuring out the interface, because to say it is a bit strange is putting it mildly. So I'm just going to take the coward's way out, and I'm going to delete that instance of the player and just load another one. Okay, so one of the other instruments that Orchestral Tools make available on their site is called layers, which I'm still trying to figure out. So it's a sampled orchestra, but it does weird things. So as you can see, there are lists of different articulations dropping up in that list as it loads things, right? So there are chords min sustain, chords suspended fourth sustain, staccato low unison. So gets me an entire chord. And what? So A? Yeah, so it's bonkers. And yeah, staccato doing the same thing. I mean, I'm going to end up using that because it sounds gorgeous. It is drenched in reverb at the moment, so let's turn the reverb off, shall we? And without Valhalla Supermassive giving it a real helping hand, this is what it sounds like. And you get different microphone trees. So you've got close-up microphones, you've got a tree microphone, you've got an AB microphone. You can also download other stuff as well. It's bonkers, and it's free. So that's the Sine Player by Orchestral Tools, is my free VST plugin of the week. And certainly grab the piano, because the piano is rather lovely, especially once it's been liberally smeared with reverb. I started having a go at it on this one, which is the second track that I've put together this week, because it's February album writing month, and rather than writing 14 songs in the 28 days of the month of February, so far I've been averaging one song a day, because I do rather get a little bit manic when it comes to February. It has to be said. Yeah, my sleep patterns have been all over the place. I've got kidney stone in that kidney cyst in that one, which is really making its presence felt at the moment, and I'm just not sleeping. So yesterday, with track number 3 of February album writing month, I was still working on that after Mel's stream at 1 o'clock this morning. I uploaded it to the February album writing month website this morning at about 1:30. So that's just mad, really. But I'm enjoying myself, and I can sleep during March. So Typhoon Mac Pro says, what a setup. Oh man, this it's taken me 20 years to get here. As you opening credits, basically there used to be a double bunk bed behind me, and all my gear was shoehorned into the little desk. Argos bunk bed, shoehorned into the little desk. Every time I forgot what I was doing and got carried away recording the vocals and stood up, I'd give myself a head injury. So I eventually got fed up, and last summer for my birthday I ordered this gorgeous desk from Guy Mitson at Chunky Studio Furniture down in Banwell in Somerset. So it's locally sourced. The wood is reclaimed wood. I think it's probably scaffolding boards, but Guy oils it, and oh man, it's just, I love this desk. And it's got the pull-out drawer. Hang on. There you go. So it's got the pull-out drawer for me, Native Instruments Complete, which so the desk was birthday present. The Complete was Christmas present from me to me. If it's white pine, it probably is scaffolding. Yes, says Array of Emotions. There you go. So yeah, I have been busy, and after the theme tune, which I'd set myself the goal of it being not just near or sort of 5 or seconds either side of 90 seconds, but absolutely bang on the nose 90 seconds. It's like, right, I'm going to do this like scoring for professional television. You know, if it's a 90-second ident, I am going to do a 90-second ident. And I did, which I was absolutely chuffed to bits with. So yeah, I've been too busy making music to actually film a new opening credits sequence, but there will be one on the way at some point in the not too distant future. And for those of you who have subscribed, you lovely people who have subscribed to this channel, I have not forgotten you either. There will be HFO custom emotes on this channel eventually. That is one of the things that me being, because one of my other side hustles back in the day was I used to draw cartoons and comics and do illustrations, and ended up designing t-shirts and doing comic strips for a heavy metal band, well, a rock band that you may have heard of called Motorhead. And I think it's about time I sort of really loosened up the old rotring pens and got back into illustration again. So I thought doing some nice little emotes and other graphics and stuff for the Twitch channel might be a rather nice way of doing that. So yeah, that's the Twitch stuff done. Track number 2 this week. I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do? And as I thought, what am I going to do? Ableton crashed on me again. And Ableton has been crashing on me an awful lot since I installed the full version of Native Instruments Contact Player. Well, in fact, since I installed Complete 13, which I treated myself to along with the MIDI controller. It's been driving me nuts. And the DAW that I use, Ableton, I mean, I've been using Ableton since version 8 many, many, many years ago. I am very, very earnestly looking forwards to version 11, which is going to drop like any time now. It's on the way. But Ableton crashed on me during this very stream a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys remember it, when at least it had the decency to throw up an error message and play the Windows red exclamation mark sound. But this week I've been dropping Waves plugins onto Ableton tracks, and Ableton's just gone poof and completely disappeared. No warning, nothing. It's just 1 second I'm looking at a screen full of tracks, and the next I'm looking at my desktop going, oh. So what do you do when life gives you lemons? I don't know. I haven't got any lemons. But what I have got is a track that I wrote called Always Crashing in the Same Door. And those of you who have a copy of David Bowie's album Low might recognise where I got the title from. But I very purposely did not listen to David Bowie's track before I recorded this, because I wanted this to be me wrestling with a recalcitrant digital audio workstation. And this is what Always Crashing in the Same Door sounds like.
Got out of bed this morning, gathered up my wits, and fired up the big machine to start the work of changing sound bites into bits. What happened wasn't altogether unforeseen. I just clicked on save, but I'm beginning to suspect I'm going to find these best laid plans have just been wrecked. I know that even if I get my files back, they won't sound like they did before. And I'll be missing all the best performance tracks. I'm always crashing in the same door. As my controller starts pretending it's not there, the muse collapses at my feet. I pause to offer an exasperated prayer, then hit Control and Alt Delete. I just clicked on save, but I'm beginning to suspect I'm going to find these best laid plans have just been wrecked.
think that particular track gives a fairly good accounting of itself, don't you? For sort of an afternoon going, I know what I'm going to write. I'm going to write about Ableton crashing. And so, that's kind of what I do. Honey Badger Folk says, really cool track. Thank you. There were some nice lyrical touches in it. I particularly liked the idea of Muse collapsing at my feet, offer an exasperated prayer, and hit Control and Alt and Delete. So it took me a while to figure out scansion, because I'm all about scansion. It's funny. I hate shoehorning stuff in that doesn't quite fit in scansion. It's one of my bugbears. When I listen to a song, it's like, oh, that works perfectly. And things like iambic pentameter. Last summer, I wrote a song called The Death of Kings, which was kind of inspired by the comet that showed up in the middle of summer. Wrote a song, and just to see if anybody would notice, I wrote it entirely in an iambic pentameter. Dumpty 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 dum, de dumpty dumpty dum, de dumpty 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 dum, de dumpty dumpty dum, blah blah blah. Nobody noticed. I actually had to explicitly say, didn't you realise that I wrote that song? So, yeah, rhythm, scansion, meter, feet, the whole works is something that I really, really, really find profoundly satisfying. And I will worry at a line, because I'll know what I want to say, but I can't find saying it in the meter that I want it to fit in the line. And the reason that it has to be the right meter is quite simply, otherwise that I forget to breathe or trip up and cannot sing the line unless the meter's right. It's weird, and it's driven me to be a better lyricist, frankly, I think. But the converse of that is that I can get a bit wordy. So you'll find on track 4, which I'm still writing, so I'm only going to play you the instrumental, but I'm really trying very, very hard to be less wordy with what I do. But so that's Always Crashing in the Same Door. What have we got on here? Well, the drums are my favourite, which are Superior Drummer 3 in particular. Oh, that's interesting. I changed it, because normally what I tend to use is there's an expansion pack for Superior Drummer 3 called the Metal Foundry, and one of the drum kits that you get in the Metal Foundry is Devon Townsend's Dev Kit drum kit, which has just got more brass than most Bell Foundries do, which is rather nice. But obviously I just sort of left it, this one. And 6 tracks of guitars, and that line about I'll be missing all my best performance tracks, that was, I mean, they say right from experience. That was right from experience, because the original guitar solo in the bridge was really, really, really much better than the one that's in there now. But Ableton crashed on me, and when I carried on working on it, I'd been working on the vocals for quite a while, and then looked up from the vocals, which are all these sort of nice autumn colours, the yellows and the ochres and the beiges there, and looked up, and the 2 guitar solo tracks were completely empty. And there was a considerable amount of rather forceful language employed here. So if you use Ableton and you've got the auto backup system set up on it, what you can do is go back into Ableton's previous versions, because there's a backup folder under each project folder that you have, and it will usually have most of the stuff that you recorded saved with the track, saved as WAV files with the track name. Except that the solo that I was looking for, I couldn't find. So I ended up having to do it again. But as I said while the thing was playing on the chat, there's a shed load of synths because me. And even though I've got this gigantic rack of analog synths from the 80s behind me, I do tend to rather gravitate towards the rather lovely stuff that you get in Arturia's V collection, which includes an ARP 2600, a Buchla easel, which is very, very good for making annoying bleeping noises and less so for convincing lines. There's a Fairlight. There's the Yamaha CS80 emulation, which turns you into Vangelis whether you want to turn into Vangelis or not. The Solina String Machine will turn you into Tangerine Dream. There are even Edgar Froese presets for some of the other synthesizers in the V collection. It's a glorious, glorious set of emulations. So they're modeled, they're not sampled. This is basically the computer doing physics so that the circuits that are in its virtual version do the same things that the real wires and capacitors and resistors and everything else do in the synth of the same name. There's a Moog modular, which is absolutely amazing. So yeah, loads of good stuff on that. And then a whole bunch of vocals from me. And I tend to slap a lot of compression on them. So there's the Waves DBX 160, which kind of sits in my vocal submix pretty much as a default. I also use Isotope's Nectar 3, which is a series of plugins that kind of has machine learning built into it. So it will listen to your vocal track and then it will go, oh, well, that fairly closely matches this other vocal track. And in that, the best way of getting a good recording mix out of it was to add some pitch control, add a gate, add an equalizer, add a de-esser, add another equalizer, add a bit of compression, and then drop some reverb on the end. And it basically decided most of that by itself. And then I've took it apart and fiddled with it. But I really, really like Nectar 3. So it's really good. And then mastering on the end, just Ozone. And again, Ozone uses machine learning. So you play it what you're doing. And it says, oh, yeah, so the equalizer on this. See, I'm getting quite good at this. Have to say I'm getting quite good at this. Ozone just went, well, there's nothing I can do to improve on it, really. Which I was rather pleased with it. There's a little bit of dynamic EQ, and that's where my voice or particular frequencies or resonances on the guitars and everything else start lifting in here. So it controls those. And then the maximizer, just as we've talked on this show many times, I set it so that my target threshold for loudness is -14 loudness units full scale. And it goes, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And that was the result. All of which is fairly standard HFO approach for doing stuff like this, I have to say. It's what I've learnt to do over the last 12 years taking part in Form, because that's really when I started using digital audio workstations in earnest. Started off with a digital audio workstation called N-Track, which is now up at about version 11, and you can still get it. And I've even got N-Track for my phone. That's how mad technology is these days. So N-Track is very good, made by an Italian programmer called Flavio Antonioli. But I bought a Novation Launchpad many years ago, and it came with a CD of Ableton Live Lite. And I kind of started using Ableton, and the lights went on. It was like, I get this. I understand how this works. and I've been an Ableton user ever since. This is Ableton Live 10 Suite that I'm using at the moment. As I said earlier in the show, Ableton Live 11 launches imminently. There are all sorts of new bells and whistles that I will be spending obsessive amounts of time over learning how they work, and I will share what I've learned in that as and when on the show once Ableton Live 11 drops. But I have friends who have a very, very, very different approach to recording their music. And if you've hung around February Album Writing Month or its big brother 5090 at all much in the last 5 years, you may have come across the musical phenomenon that is Mr. Silver Machine. Mr. Silver Machine is a force of nature. His musical approach, his vocal stylings, everything about his music just tickles my funny bone. He's a demented genius. I love the stuff that he does, and I'm very, very honoured to be enough of a friend of Mr. Silver Machine that we exchange CDs of each other's work at Christmas, and it is always a delight when his drop on the letterbox. So I was a bit concerned when he said, "Oh, I'm not doing Form this February. Not going to be any Silver Machine music this month." And the world literally rocked on its axis at that news in the HFO establishment. I can tell you, this is not good. So I am not alone in thinking this. So big shout out to my friend Geordie Robertson, who you know as Fuzzy on February Album Writing Month and on 5090. And he and a bunch of others basically said, well, if Silver Machine's not making Silver Machine music, then we're just going to have to do it for him and add him as a collaborator. And lo, that is what hath happened. And I spent quite a long time going back over some of Mr. Machine's greatest hits, trying to figure out how on earth he'd done it, because, as I say, he is one of the most wildly inventive musicians I have ever heard. I mean, influences that range from Benny Hill and Spike Jones and his City Slickers. I can hear nods to that era of music in Mr. Machine's stuff, but text-to-speech programs doing vocals and explosions and the most manic, absolutely over-the-edge guitar stylings you will ever come across. So track number 3 on February Album Writing Month is basically me trying to emulate my idol. And as you can see, there's rather a lot of editing going on in this, and without context it's going to make absolutely no sense to you at all. So I'm going to play you this. This is called I Got This.
Is there something you need to do? I think you'd better put that guitar down. It's clearly far too much for you. I've got this. I've got this. Relax, I've got this. I've got this. You want to play with all the big boys. But I'm afraid there is a catch. You might tell me that you're making progress. But I think you're the bottom of the batch. You might have gone and bought some lovely shiny toys. Your guitar playing's just not up to scratch. You appear to be attempting a solo. Would you like me to take over? I've got this. I've got this. Relax, I've got this. I've got this. I am quite sure that my expression is not the slightest bit a smirk. Who cares if nobody will dig this? They're just uneducated jerks. This song can be our little secret. Let the machines do all the work. I've got this. I've got this. Relax, I've got this. I've got this. Take it on home, baby.
That was just stupidly good fun to do. I don't think I have had as much fun putting a track together as that for years, because it was a chance to basically just be somebody else, to be Silver Machine, and just ridiculous. I apologise for the glitch in the middle of that. I've got my Native Instruments Complete Audio 6 set with a very, very small buffer of 256 because that helps with latency, but it did not appear to help very much when Break Tweaker kicked in there, did it? So I do apologise for that, but at least it was kind of in character for the song, so what the hell? I think that works. I'm going to live with that. It's clearly it's not on the recording that I posted to February Album Writing Month. So if you want to go to the February Album Writing Month site and listen to the version without glitches, just look for Head First Only, strangely enough, and there I will be. And Array of Emotions, bless him, says, there was a glitch. It could have been on purpose. Yes, thank you. Thank you indeed. See, it's the curse. It's the curse. There's always a curse. You know, there's a hitch, there's a glitch, there's other things that rhyme with itch. But where did all this come from? The weird thing was that this did not start off as my Silver Machine tribute, because I've raved about it already this evening at great length, and I'm going to rave about it again. Arturia's V Collection is a series of emulations of software synthesizers, and V Collection 8, which dropped less than a month ago, adds this beastie, the Moog vocoder. And OMG, does that have some sounds that take me back to the 1970s. I mean, it's instant Jean-Michel Jarre, it's instant Tangerine Dream. And the idea of a vocoder is basically that you stick a microphone into it and then sing and play the synthesizer at the same time, and the synthesizer turns your words into synthesizer-y chords. So vocoders, think Herbie Hancock's Rocket or ELO's Mr. Blue Sky. That's a vocoder, right? So loads and loads of nice coloured patch cables to play with on the real one, and you can do just the same with the patch cables on the virtual emulation in Arturia's V Collection. But not only can you sing into the microphone, like I've got right in front of me here, the Arturia version also lets you just drop samples into the vocoder, so that the sample then determines the formants, the speech elements that the vocoder will draw out in the notes that it's playing. And I was just prattling about with it on, well, yesterday, because this is how fast HFO travels these days, right? All these songs have been written since Monday, and this was yesterday's effort. So there is a basic synth track on here which I'm going to solo, and all it is a single note played through the vocoder using the vocoder's sample of a bloke saying, "I've got this," and this is what it sounds like on its own. So you get the idea, although for some reason it seems to have dropped the Ive at various points in that. Dazed and Confused says, that's delightful. It is an absolutely kick-ass musical instrument. The Moog vocoder. I mean, 1970, so Kool and the Gang. Was it Kool and the Gang or the Commodores? Basically, any Motown funk player in a band worth their salt, if they did keyboards, would have a Moog vocoder in their arsenal, because, I mean, it's, let me, in fact, why don't I, so if I call up some of the other patches on this, because there are, I mean, these are all the vocals, right? So it's not just one or two, it's just insane. So what's different times? Let's just pick one. after you've heard like one or two different patches, you start to recognize what the timbre does, that the vocoder does to a sample, and it's absolutely unique. Nothing else sounds like it.
Disco tones. Disco tones. Disco tones. Disco tones.
Disco toms, eh? And that's so disco toms long. And I could do a show literally just stepping through some of the patches just on the Moog vocoder, and you'd all be transfixed. And some of you might even say, but out of deference to you, I'll just do one or two, just one more or two more, two more.
Let the words flow. Take control. Take control. Take control. Let the words flow.
So I love the fact that it's not just one sample. If you can load multiple samples into it. So there you've got take control done a couple of times and then let the words flow as a separate sample. And that's what it's done with, where's it gone? That's what it's done with I've Got This, because if I open it up, you've effectively got an I've, a got, and a this, and it cycles through them. So that is a bit laggy, but I'm throwing a lot of processing in this at the bottom, because a lot of processing to emulate Mr. Machine. Ashland says, can't use it for live vocals in Studio One as it will only route live audio into effects. Oh, bugger. That's something I've not even tried yet. I mean, I've got the microphone in front of me already and everything like that. But I've not actually tried using a mic with the vocoder, but I will therefore monitor progress quite attentively. And yeah, the vocals on that. I was sitting there thinking, oh, I need a text-to-speech program. And I very nearly dug out my old iPhone, which is sitting at the bottom of a cupboard somewhere. But then I did a bit of digging and realised that a lot of the assistance functionality in Windows 10 has stuff that is just what I want. And in fact, so that voice is Windows 10 narrator function, which you can turn on in settings, and you get a choice of 4 different voices, 2 male, 2 female, and I auditioned them all, and Helen there got the gig. I thought she was just what I needed, as a little bit supercilious, but obviously omniscient, and that turned out far better than I expected. But look at the edits that I was making were like 16th notes. And there are, how many guitar tracks did I end up with? So 4 guitar tracks, and I'm basically hurtling backwards and forwards between one guitar track and another. And there's pitch bend on samples, and I'm just generally really stirring it up. And this particular sequence in verse 2, I am very proud of.
You want to play with all the big boys, but is a catch. You might tell me that you're...
So you can see that the idea, or the way I eventually figured out how to do it, was to just play 3 completely over the top solos along to everything, and then cut most of them away and only have one of them going simultaneously. Although there are 1 or 2 bits where I dropped in the chorus. For some reason, I'd actually managed to do 2 takes where they were in harmony with each other. God knows how I did that. Totally not planned. And then at the end, you notice it sort of gradually becomes a little bit more together, and then the end is just a absolutely straightforward guitar solo using the Zoom G3 with an expression pedal for the wah into my Moore Ocean machine. So there's a nice little bit of live reverb which lets the guitar solo kind of stand out from all the mayhem that's been going on before. But I really like that. In fact, I enjoyed that so much that I'm kind of thinking I may explore this genre, if it is a genre, or if it's just Silver Machine. I may have to do more stuff like this because it was ridiculously good fun. And if you've got a DAW and a guitar and a drum box, do have a go. I want to hear other people trying to do stuff like Mr. Silver Machine does, because the world needs Silver. You know, in a time like this, a hero will arise, and his name is Silver Machine. And if we can't have Silver Machine himself, we can at least have his emulators. And I'm all up for that. Ashland says, I think Ableton should be able to route audio to instruments. It's about VST protocols, and SO is super strict about what is an instrument and what is an effect. Yeah, I'll take your word for it, sir. Yeah. So, but I had fun doing this. Right, back to me. While Ableton is loading up my most recent thing, what I have been doing. So, as I say, I uploaded that to Form about 1:30 this morning, and bit out of sorts today, really. I was quite tempted to stay in bed because just knackered, and going to sleep at a post 2 a.m. probably wasn't the best idea anyway. But I soldier on, and before I go over to the 4th piece of music, which is what I've been working on today, and it's not finished yet, I just want to give a shout out to Wobby, who is doing something on Saturday the 13th of February over on Facebook. So the 13th of February, Saturday the 13th of February, turns out it's World Radio Day. So Wobby is getting together with a gang of the usual suspects, including a special guest all the way from Canada. Our very own Fuzzy, Geordie Robertson from Form, will be guesting once again on Wobby Wobbit's World Radio Day special online cabaret, and I will be acting as Vision Mixer once again. And Wobby and I may even have something special for you on that. So that's on Facebook. That's a week on Saturday. And that's at 8 p.m. GMT, 9 p.m. Europe. Other time zones are available. But, I mean, those folks are all superb. And it will be huge fun. And please come and join us and wave and heckle. And Rev Emotion says, I will tune in for Johnny the Poet. Mr. Fluffy Punk indeed. Absolute master of the written word. So that's Saturday the 13th of February. And Rev Emotion says, he's so good. They all are. I mean, I love Hugh's. See, Hugh's stuff. I grew up I'm an old git. When I grew up, there were shows on television like That's Life that occasionally featured a singer-songwriter who, I mean, he'd be murdering form if he was still with us, called Mr. Jake Thackeray, who had a very, very distinctive voice and a very, very, very twisted and dark sense of humour. And he released multiple albums. He would perform just songs, him on piano and vocals, on shows like That's Life and variety shows. He'd crop up on things like the Two Ronnies every now and again. I loved Jake Thackeray, and Hugh is very much a singer-songwriter in the Jake Thackeray mould. So yeah, do check out Hugh on the stream on Wobby's show, which is on Saturday the 13th of February, which is a week on Saturday. Right, Ableton's done its thing, right? So we're back with Ableton. There's hardly any tracks on this, Chris. What's going on? Well, it's not finished yet, all right? It's I have, as I said earlier, rediscovered the joys of playing the piano, and this track goes back to one of the pianos that I really, 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 really got on with when I was doing my Spontaneous Grand Pianos album, which is available as a free download. Should you wish to avail yourself of it, just head on over to headfirstonly.bandcamp.com, and Spontaneous Grand Pianos will be the album that pops up when you load that page. And I would remind you that tomorrow is Bandcamp Friday again. If you're thinking of buying stuff on Bandcamp, do it from the hour of 8 a.m. GMT tomorrow until 8 a.m. GMT on Saturday, because during those 24 hours, Bandcamp are going to waive their fee for sales of music on their website. So if you're thinking of buying stuff, not necessarily mine, but if you would like to buy some of mine, I have an extensive discography on Bandcamp, then please have a look what there is tomorrow. I will be availing myself of a number of albums which I've had my eye on for a while. And another former, Pete Murphy, said, have you got Ergo Phizmiz's latest album yet? And Pete, if you're watching, no, I haven't, because I'm buying it tomorrow. Then Ergo gets more money. And if you don't know Mr. Ergo Phizmiz, then, oh boy, you need to do some research. Go track down Mr. Ergo Phizmiz, ERGOPHIZMIZ. The man's body of work is as awe-inspiring as Mr. Silver Machines is, but in an entirely different direction. I was lucky, well, I was not lucky because I backed it. Ergo did an opera a few years ago, which was staged at the Cube down in Stokes Croft in Bristol. And it was an opera based on The Third Policeman, Flynn O'Brien's wonderful, bonkers, strange novel about who knows what, spoilers. And yeah, giant papier-mâché heads, back projection, absolutely bonkers orchestration and instrumentation. And yeah, so The Great Panjandrum is Ergo's latest album, and I will be buying that tomorrow. But my album's available. Anyway, complete sidetrack. What I was talking about to explain why Spontaneous Grand Pianos, and the fact that I spent the whole of January recording music using sampled or modelled grand pianos, was that the one I fell in love is this one, which is called Noir. And it's actually a sample, or a multiple samples, of the pianist Niels Fram's favourite piano, and it sounds lush. And I just love making music using one of the many tonal variations that the Contact player throws up when you load this into Contact. This one's called Emotional, and yeah, so the track is, it's going to be called Hanging On, because that's kind of what everything feels like at the moment. And times are hard and everything pretty much sucks. And even though I was sort of saying to the doc this morning, yeah, I'm fine, I'm not feeling suicidal or anything like that. And frankly, I'm not really even feeling depressed. But I think the word, and I've been sort of pondering this quite intensively since Christmas, since I took the Christmas decorations down and walked into the living room the following day, and it was like, oh. And I think the word that I've been looking for is melancholy. And frankly, Spontaneous Grand Pianos has a lot of melancholy in it, not least because one of the tracks is dedicated to a friend of mine who I've known for many years, who passed away very suddenly at New Year, completely unexpectedly, and it's kind of thrown all of us who knew him into a bit of a loop. So this track is going to be about hanging on, and it's called Hanging On. And I've got the chorus written, and I've got about a verse and a half written, but it's going to be fairly minimalist. So it's not going to be loads of wordplay and clever rhymes and everything like that, because melancholy, because depths of winter, because grey, because snow, drizzle, that horrible grey, manky ice that ends up at the side of the road after the snow's no longer pristine and white, and everything's just a bit rubbish. And yeah, a gorgeous grand piano speaking to a drum kit which is jazz brushes, and this is what I've got from Hanging On so far. So that is a very, very early draft of Hanging On. Didn't know I could do smooth jazz, did you? No, neither did I. There's a few of the chord inversions on the piano track. I think I might change, because that was literally just sitting down at this keyboard and playing it and playing the chorus or playing the verse. So the end of the verse then became the pre-chorus, and it's like play that, and then literally just played through it. So I haven't even gone back to the point now of going, I wonder if that D should be a C sharp. So yeah, it will no doubt evolve as I work on it tomorrow after I've finished editing this show and uploading it to YouTube, which kind of takes a few hours in the morning if I drag myself out of bed in the morning. But Wobby says, lovely, Chris, thank you. Again, it'll be a bit melancholy, but I hope it will strike a tone of optimism in the fact that we're still here. We are still hanging on, even though this lunatic world that we live in just seems to... It almost seems like the writers are just messing with us now. It's like, okay, we're just going to throw stuff at you, and we're not even going to remotely explain the justification for putting that into the plot, but deal with it. That's just the way life is these days, and we have to deal with it, I guess, given the alternative is running screaming down the road and setting fire to things, and that never ends well. So there you go, 4 pieces of music from me for you this evening, including a new theme tune. Don't say that I don't deliver. On HFO TV, it's all about your ears. And that sounded a lot better in my head than it did when I said it. Anyway, that brings us to the end of... Oh, Rabemsif, anyone had a session with the Bechstein Digital Grand, if I may ask? No, not me. Riaka Music says, you've been so productive. I guess I have, haven't I? Yeah. But, just obsessed and mindset. February, album writing month, I just go manic. I don't go manic during the rest of the year. I just tend to stick in the depressed side of things. But February is another matter entirely, and I just go completely off the frickin' chain. This is the first year where I've been able to do February album writing month in a room that, I mean, let's face it, look at this place. This is a proper music room now. So that kind of makes it incumbent on me to do proper music in it. And there is rather a lot of musical instruments and bits and pieces in here. And I mean, you can see my trusty Moore Ocean machine at my feet, blinking away faithfully. So yeah, this is what I will be doing for the foreseeable in here. I will try and put together an opening credits show. And I've decided that I will do a final Is It Form Yet show on Sunday. So that's Sunday at 2100 GMT, 1600 Eastern, 2200 Central European time. That will be the final Is It Form Yet show, because when the opening credits draw to a close, we can all say, yes, it is. So that's Sunday. I will be back here with more music, hopefully with more freebies and more recommendations for really, really cool VST plugins or DAW accessories, or just general musical stuff that you can avail yourself of. And if you're not taking part in Form and a scary number of the people in chat here are taking part in Form. If you're not, have a think about signing up for it. You don't have to write 14 songs in 28 days. You can just write one. But, I mean, quite frankly, it's just a lovely place to hang out with some really, really splendid musical geniuses like Silver Machine, like Wobby, like Atitlan, like Riako. All of you guys who do Form are absolute heroes in my view, and I totally enjoy being one of your gang. Array of Emotions doesn't think he's a musician yet. He says, I think I've heard of the concept of in tune vaguely. So yes, you're included as well, David. Don't forget. Yeah, if you're not a musician, we still love you. You've still got a place here. Draw up a chair and enjoy listening to me blathering on about pretty much anything. And that's what I'll be doing on Sunday, and that's what I'll be doing next week. But until next week, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever social bubble you are or are not in, please look after yourself. Please look after others. Please wear a mask if you're going outside. I'll say this again. The fact that our glorious leader has taken it upon himself to have absolutely no control over the spread of the virus means that the virus is running rampant in the UK, and we are the most infected country in the world. And when you have a virus running rampant, the chances of it mutating skyrocket. And guess what? It's done it again this week, and the new mutation, the new strain, does not look good news. So please wear a damn mask. Please obey social distancing guidelines, and just generally look after yourselves. So till next time, stay well, stay safe, and stay sane. And I will see you as the end credits begin to roll on Sunday. Take care.